And now from lovely Three Forks, Montana, Todd the Vinyl Junkie, with a face for radio and a voice for silent movies. Now your host, the Vinyl Junkie himself, Todd.
Hello and welcome to part 3 of our SME Tour. This part of the tour was the upstairs with tone arms and final assembly for the turntables. As you listen to our friend Brian Laker here speak, you'll notice that the precision and the attention to detail paid by SME is just amazing, and it's what basically makes their product so outstanding.
We can ensure that when this bearing is introduced to the spindle, it's exactly what we want it to be. We want the bearing to grip this, but not slide up and down it, but we don't want it so tight that when you push the bearing on, we use a fixture in here to pull the bearing on, that it actually stays where it's meant to be. In other words, if it's staying where it's meant to be, it's not going to resonate. If it's loose, it could possibly resonate. If it's loose, you could lose the adjustment when you come to put it all together. So this is a yoke from what would eventually end up on a Series 300, a 309 or a 4. Effectively the same part. And if I pass this to you, you get some idea of how freely the bearings spin, how silky smooth they are. You can't do it this one because you haven't got a 360 degree rotation, because we're just going across the record. But the actual bearings are just as free as that. Just give it a little spin or just run your finger over it, it's very, very smooth. We have to stop. Through training we know where to stop and put it on here. And once we've got it on there and we've got it adjusted down to 4 or 5 microns, it'll be the same on this. We have it.
So you're basically measuring how tight, how much you got that nut tight.
It's not tightness, that's what other manufacturers do. Other manufacturers of other tone arms will put a bearing in and they'll tighten the nut down with a torque wrench. When it gets to a certain setting on the torque wrench, that's it.
But you're tightening it and measuring the plane.
Yeah, so we're measuring the plane. I'll show you the bottom of this one. So that one's reading 4 or 5 microns.
And that's what you target?
That's what we're looking at, yeah. That is about the limit we can actually physically measure, even using this, an expensive micrometer. Much beyond that, they become sort of inaccurate from our point of view. What we would then do is we then just put it on a temporary stand, and if it was this bearing, we could spin it, we can have a look at it. It doesn't tell us an awful lot, but what we do is to then have a look at it. Just before I explain that bit, we don't normally do that in open air like this on the workbench. We do it in this device here. It's basically so that we assemble the bearings in a dust-free environment as much as we can. We haven't got a dust-free room, but it's the closest we can do. The bearings are only exposed for a few seconds in there, and then they're encapsulated either in there or that. And every bearing is shielded anyway, they're not open, most bearings. So high-quality bearings, they're not the top quality, because to buy top quality bearings is almost impossible all the time. You can get ABEC ratings is ABEC 1, the cheapest bearing, goes right the way up through to about 9, and I think it can go to 11. A bearing manufacturer starts his day, he manufactures bearings, and they are sampled to what are going to be an ABEC 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We use 7s, which is near the top. That's the best quality that you consistently buy. If you wanted more than that, they can't guarantee to give you those. They know they can produce 5, 6, 7s on a regular basis. To get that top one, it's almost impossible, and they're frighteningly expensive. These are that sort of bearing in US dollars per bearing is probably about $20 per bearing. But you've got 4 of them in there.
So, people refer to knife edge bearing. What is that? What is that?
I'll show you a knife edge bearing later on.
Okay.
Yep, no problem. These are ball race bearings.
What are these called? Race bearings.
Ball race bearings.
Ball
Yeah.
race.
Yeah. Okay. There are all sorts of bearings available. These are basically what was traditionally called a ball bearing. Basically, got in there is probably about 17 or 19 tiny steel balls. Same as in the small bearings in there. Same as you'd have in various applications in motor cars as well. You also get things that are called roller bearings, which tend to be a cylinder like this with rollers all the way around it. They're very noisy. Ball race bearings are the most common type of bearings in use in all sorts of industries. What we then do is we put a slave tone on and we're going to look at and attach it to the and the technician would then say, right, okay, we've done all that, we're happy with what we've got reading on there, but we then want to simulate what's going to happen to the arm when it's tracking a record. We can't move it as slowly as a stylus would pull the arm across the record. We want to have a look. So what we do is we devise this method of using just a slip of paper, a spill of paper we call it. It's just normal file paper cut down to 4 or 5 inches long. And we use it for simulating movement on the bearings. And you can see, even with that, and this method, I can still move the bearings, but it does give some resistance, and that's exactly what we're looking for. What we don't want to do is be able to move that and it go flying off. Equally, we don't want that piece of paper bending like that. It basically means that the bearings are free to move, but they're controlled. And the same with this is a little bit out of balance, but so also on this spindle you've got 2 bearings. You've also got this on the top of it, and this is connected to the control yaw for a little tunnel in the control bracket. The other end of the spring is connected to this. And it's a calibrated spring, a very finely made, we don't make the springs by the way, finely made spring. The more tension you give it, obviously when you turn that wheel to 3 microns, it pulls it out like this. When it's at 0, it'll be like this. So we always test them at 0, but we also calibrate the spring, calibrate the device here. And we do that through means of adjusting the position of this device on the spindle. You can hold that still. There's a tiny little pinhole here. When that's installed on there, we can put a tool in there, hold that still, and move this in relation to the rest of the assembly. In other words, initially we have to tension it, and then we calibrate it through means of a known amount of swing. And we know that when the yoke is in this plane here in level with this part in the control bracket, and we've got it at half a gram, it will begin to move back to the armrest very, very slowly, which is exactly what it's doing. And I've done it without having a scale in there. You're right. You can get a customer that's complaining about that the bearings are tight or the anti-skate's not working.
There you go. You just showed us how you calibrate it. That's you set it to 0.5 and you've learned what that speed of it should be.
Exactly, yeah.
You can say, oh, that's too fast.
And also, it's not unusual. Not been here quite as long as Frank, but I've been here for nearly 40 years. So over time, you get to know the little silly little things about these arms and the way that they work. This is freedom of movement. You can't feel whether the anti-skate is doing anything. A customer can't tell whether that's working or not. If you tell a customer to put his arm back in the floating position, in other words, it's balanced, it's in equilibrium as we call it. Set the anti-skate to 0, put the arm over here floating over the record, and gradually turn that scale to 1 gram or 1.5 grams, and it will do that. That means the anti-skate's working. No, there's no argument about that. They don't really go out of calibration, because that piece can't move on there, that spring can't change its mind. It's a spring, it's been manufactured as a spring, so it will always stay calibrated. The only thing that can happen, I have seen that come detached from there about twice in my lifetime of working here, having probably handled thousands of them.
So this concludes our tour of SME. As you can see here, we have the history of SME behind glass. You see their tone arms. They also did race car, little HO cars, and they did models, and they did all sorts of stuff. SME founder Alistair Robertson Aikman, who started the company in 1946 under the title Scale Model Equipment, thus SME. This is Frank Fenn. He is our tour guide on the shop floor. Thank you so much, Frank, for the awesome job you did explaining and showing us stuff. This is the man that owns SME. This is AJ Shirk, great person, runs a great ship. Can't say enough good things about him. This is my favorite picture. We had entitled this Two Dogs and a Cat. This is Kat Orling. She's the SME Sales and Marketing Director, and the other two are dogs. This is myself with AJ, and then next to AJ, to his left, our right on the picture, is Stuart McNellis, which is SME's CEO, and next to him is Chad Stelly, our SME man from the United States. He did all the training. He's one heck of a turntable resource. Thank you to all. Thank you to Jay Rain for arranging this. Thank you to Elaine Ratton in sales and business. The whole trip was just outstanding. It was fun. It was educational, and I came away from this experience just fired up about SME turntables, and I hope you will too. They are fine product.
Don't forget to visit the TTVJ Audio website and sign up for our newsletter. Keep up to date with new products, sales, and loaner programs. Thanks for watching.